Hey, welcome to the Espresso Outlet YouTube channel. My name is Barrett, and today I'm going to cover some of these questions that I keep seeing pop up in our emails, as well as in the comments on our YouTube channel, and maybe some Facebook, and just all around. So we've taken a lot of these questions, and I wanted to just quickly go through them. And the number one thing that I've been seeing asked quite a bit is, how loud is this, and how does it compare to other grinders? Now, before I really do the decibel test, I do want to explain. This is a decibel meter, but it doesn't really measure the pitch of the sound. So for example, some grinders, they're very loud and booming, such as the Brazza 270, for example. It's a very loud booming grinder. If you do a decibel test, it's really not that loud. Think about like a bass, like subwoofer in your car. It's going to carry much further, but in reality, it's perceived much louder. So just keep that in mind as we do this decibel test. We're going to do it at the highest RPM and the lowest RPM, and I'm just going to do it on about an espresso setting. Now, before we get going, these are the DLC coded espresso burrs. So different burrs are going to make different pitches, especially like the SSP multi-purpose. They've always been kind of known to be a loud, more whiny sounding burr. So these are the stock DLC espresso burrs, and other burrs that you may put in this grinder. It could be a little bit louder or perceived louder. So to get started, I actually have 2 doses of 18 grams weighed out, and I have our decibel meter. We're just gonna make it, I don't know, let's say, I always do about 18 to 20 inches. This is at 20 inches. So this is really just standing away from the grinder. And we'll turn that on real quick. And let's load our 18 grams into the hopper. Before we do that, I'm going to set it on about setting 15. Pour our beans in. And this is with the lid on and everything. So it ground 18 grams very quickly, 2 to 3 seconds. Just came flying out the bottom, and that was at 1600 RPM. So we'll take a look at the reading here in a minute. Still, it goes so fast, it's so quiet, in my opinion, that I think you're going to be very happy with it. Now let's go and adjust it to as low as it can go, 300 RPMs. And I really don't recommend going this slow for espresso. You're not going to gain as much out of it, but we're just going to do it for testing purposes. Again, another 18 grams, and let's fire this up. Looked like maybe 69 to 70 decibels. That time, since it took quite a bit longer to grind at the lower RPM, I was able to watch the camera a little bit better. So using our bellow, it does have the ion generator in there, so it's been doing a really good job. I've been using this grinder since last Thursday and put quite a few beans through it. And we're gonna see the inside. It's less of a retention test and more of a how much gets built up inside of the grinder. So I guess before I move this, I'm just going to do one quick test. We're gonna just be quiet. The grinder's not running. We'll say 38 decibels. Here's 300 RPMs with it running, no beans. Maybe 39 decibels. It's so quiet. And then let's go to max RPM. Goes up about 4 to 5 more decibels. So you will want to be careful. This is quiet enough that you could accidentally leave it running, especially at one of the lower RPM settings. So we're going to turn that off. We're going to dump these beans. Now, out of the box, this does come with the DLC coded espresso burrs, as I mentioned in the intro. Now you can opt to purchase some of the burrs from SSP. So here I have 83 millimeter high uniformity burrs. Fantastic burr. I really feel like the DLC coded burrs that are in it perform quite similarly to these. But if that is something that you want, It's really easy to swap. And then the ones that I'm kind of looking forward to trying out in this, we have the 83mm multi-purpose or MP burrs, sometimes unimiddle burrs. You can see them there. And the finishing teeth are just a lot different on these. And on the 83, you really get a lot of that extreme clarity out of something like this. There is one more burr that I don't have in front of me. It was actually sent to one of our influencers. It is the DLC coated brew burr. And these brew burrs, they're really only made for brew. So it's not going to be a very universal burr if you're trying to do espresso and brew, but you're going to get a phenomenal brew out of it. So if you're looking for more like maybe a countertop size, EK43-ish type grinder, it's obviously not as big of a burr, but you're going to get that really nice, clean Ditting style or EK style drip that a lot of people are looking for, and it's going to be less than $1,000 and it's not very big. So that's really exciting. We are going to take a look at the front of this real quick. I'm going to show you how the adjustment mechanism works. I know I've seen a lot of questions on that. Also, just take a look at how much is built up inside the grinder. So I'm going to zoom in and we're going to take a look inside the grinder. Okay, so to get to the burrs is really quite easy. You do have the outer adjustment mechanism that goes back and forth to adjust your grind size. If you did swap your burrs and you wanted it to be re-zeroed, there's actually a set screw right here, and you just loosen up the set screw, you set it on 0 and tighten it down, so really easy to re-zero. But to remove the front, you have this outer burr piece that you begin to unscrew, and you kind of need to be careful because really these two pieces are held together with the grease, or they might feel like they're held together. So the first time that I took it out, it pulled this piece out too. There is grease on the inside. So the way that this adjustment mechanism is made is really similar to like the DF83V. When you spin this, it's actually moving this piece in and out, and that's pushing your burr in and out. So really simple. Normally, I mean, if you were to think of it as a DF64, your hopper would normally be mounted right here, but we now have this new horizontal motor design that's just really cool. So to get to the burrs, we're going to pull this piece out, and there's actually a keyway in the bottom. And what's important about that is there's a small key on the base of this because this portion needs to always face upwards. So you have your hopper at the top and it's going to feed into this little pocket. Now, on the inside, you also have this pocket right here, and that's where your auger is going to slide in. So it's going to have beans come down, and then it's going to auger towards the burrs. The burrs are going to grind them. So really cool design. It's a little bit backwards from a lot of the grinders that I've seen, where it's actually augering the other direction, but it's really kind of cool and unique. So just be sure when you put this back together, you do have your keyway. You can see like it doesn't fit in all the way. You rotate it and it slides in. But definitely be careful because you might think that these two pieces are attached. They're not. It's going to be the grease between them that is probably going to hold it together, and you could potentially drop it on the floor and maybe mess up your burrs. So just a look at the burrs. I've been using these since about Thursday, and it's Monday now, so I've only been using it about 4 days. Been using it quite a bit though. I've used it for V60 as well as espresso, and you do just kind of have your normal grounds that are going to be built up on the inside of the grinder. Let's set this down and look inside the grinder itself. So it stays relatively clean. You have the wipers that are going to spin as it's grinding, and it's going to push those grounds out the chute. So not a whole lot of buildup on the inside, but something that I do want to note for people that are going to be putting this back together. When you pull the top burr off, you're probably going to get a couple grounds in the bottom. And a couple aren't really going to hurt it, but when you're reassembling this, you don't want grounds to be pushing up in there. You might think that your grinder has something wrong with it. At least I haven't had that experience yet, but I do feel like I could see people doing that. They have like a lot of grounds built up, and they're afraid that they can't push that burr carrier all the way deep to go fine enough. So I'm going to recommend probably like a bulb or something and blow all those little pieces out before you reassemble it. Not a real big deal, but that is something that I wanted to note that I could see potentially being something that causes someone some issues in the future. So for swapping burrs and aligning burrs, it's really no different than any other Turin grinder. Someone asked, do you do it from the back? No, you still do it from the front. There's this 3 screws that hold the burr in. They did come really well aligned. Unfortunately, I messed with burrs already and didn't really do an alignment test on video, but it's really not hard to align if you need to align it. People freak out about that so much, and it's really not that necessary. So stays pretty clean, really easy to swap. If you needed to shim, you just shim kind of behind one of the screws. Same thing with your rotating burr. Now it is a little bit harder to get to because it is so deep in the grinder. And what I'd probably recommend when you do the burr swap would be to put it on its back and maybe place like a towel behind it. It's gonna be much easier to swap the burrs. In terms of build up and transfer, I don't really see much. I mean, that was opening it up for the first time in 4 days, probably done 30 or 40 shots worth of coffee and just some junk beans just to play with, like we did in the decibel video portion earlier. So really doesn't really retain that much. I don't know if there's any more questions that you guys have. I know that those were some of the big worries about how does this work. So I hope that the adjustment mechanism kind of makes more sense now. I was curious myself how it worked. I was curious about the decibels. The perceived noise is quite minimal in my opinion, but it is still a coffee grinder, so it's not going to be completely silent. Yeah, you can swap out to different burrs. We do have quite a few burr options that you can purchase on our website as an upcharge. There probably are other 83mm burrs that you could put in there as well, like Mazzer, and I'm sure there's plenty out there. So if you got any other questions, that's kind of it for the things that I kept seeing pop up again and again. We are going to do more testing. Now on the initial impressions video, I did espresso. I've been playing with it as drip the past few days and I'm very impressed with it so far. I'm on about setting 50 just as a reference. It's not gonna be the same for everyone. About setting 50 for my drip and 11 to 12 for espresso. And this is with the DLC burrs. So really easy to swap back and forth. The RPM adjustment is really nice. I think that's about it for today. So if you got any more questions, let us know. But in the meantime, if you could hit like, and if you wanted to subscribe, that really helps us out as well. So please consider doing the like and subscribe. And any more questions that you have on this, this is the place to come get them answered. So appreciate it.